Hi, I'm Colton, and this is my 1969 Cessna 150K model.
The Cessna 150 is a two-seat tricycle gear airplane that was designed for flight training, touring, and personal use. Today we're tagging along with Colton, who's flying IFR in this airplane with no GPS. The 150 is not an uncommon airplane to see out on the GA ramp, with 23,839 being built. I had a blast shooting with Colton out of Majors Field in Greenville, Texas. He's a wealth of knowledge on this airframe, and you guys are sure to enjoy the coverage.
So it's a 1969 Cessna 150K model. My dad and I bought it when I was 16 years old. I was working on my private in a rental airplane out at the airport, and we decided it'd be better if we just went ahead and bought our own airplane. Since I had airline aspirations, it'd be something I could train in and then build time. So we bought it from a nice couple down in East Texas and brought it back here. Got her up in annual condition and everything, and I've been flying her ever since. I sold it when I was 16, got my private at age 17 in my senior year of high school. Used it as a time builder to get myself a job flying freight, and I've continued to fly it for fun as my career's progressed into flying corporate jets. It's still a lot of fun to just hop in this thing on the weekend and go on a poker run or find a $100 hamburger. That's powered by a Continental O200, 200 cubic inch, 100 horsepower. Everything happens between 60 and 70 miles an hour. I can have some pretty good short runway performance. I can land in about 400 or 500 feet and then get off and clear a 50-foot obstacle in about 1,000 feet. It doesn't mind grass one bit. Pretty much my favorite place to take it is Cedar Mills. It's an airport up on Lake Texoma. They got a marina with a restaurant in it, so we land on there. Nice 3,000-foot grass strip. It's a really economical airplane to own and operate. We bought it about 6 or 7 years ago. The market's changed a lot in that time as the pilot shortage has kind of developed. The market for training airplanes has gone way, way up. Back 6 or 7 years ago, we bought it for less than $20,000. Similarly priced airplane these days would be closer to 45 or 50, so we've done pretty well. Operating costs are just super, super low. I mean, not counting fuel, just reserve for oil change, annuals, insurance, stuff like that. We figure it's about $25 an hour to operate. We've done 6 annual inspections now. We were taking it to a shop, and those annuals were costing anywhere between $750 and $1,500. The last couple of years, we've started helping out with the maintenance, learning a lot more about our airplane, and you save a little bit of cost doing it that way too, but we've never spent more than $3,000 on an annual. So for a time building airplane, don't need to get anywhere fast. You know, it's hours in the logbook that count, not miles. So the cheaper you can fly for an hour, the better it is. In cruise, we'll burn, the book says about 4.6 gallons an hour. I had a safety margin rounded up to 5. It's good for about 3 hours of cruise. Again, I kind of round that down. I try to do about 2.5-hour legs. That's about as long as I can stand to sit in the thing for. And, you know, roughly probably 80 to 90 in cruise is what you can plan for. So the longest trip I've ever done with it, I went to Chicago in one day. It took me 10.5 hours. I had a buddy with me, so we just kind of traded legs and pointed north and encountered some headwinds along the way. We definitely looked down and saw the cars on the interstate moving quicker than we were, but we were both building time, so hey, it was going in the logbook. So we bought it from an older couple. The gentleman had acquired it under the pretenses that the 150 was going to be categorized as a light sport airplane so that he could fly it without a medical certificate. So he bought the airplane and put it in his hangar, kept really good care of it, you know, ran the engine every couple weeks or whatever, and just, you know, kept it in good condition while he was waiting on the rules to change. Eventually he just kind of kept getting older and got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, so he decided it was time to let go of the airplane. It was around the time that my dad and I started looking for an airplane, so I was actually in my high school speech and debate class, and we were in the computer lab that day, and everyone else was working on their projects, and I was scrolling on controller. You know, every day I was checking all the websites, seeing what new airplanes had popped up. I came across this airplane, and I knew it was the one. So I pulled out my phone and called my dad and said, "Dad, check out this 150 on controller." About that time, the teacher walks by and confiscates my phone. I told her, I was like, you don't understand, this is the one, I need to finish this phone call. And she was like, well, okay, you can finish it, but you're gonna have to get your phone back from the office at the end of the day. But here we are, we ended up with the airplane, so I guess it was worth it. This will be a lifelong airplane. Like I said, it's so economical to operate it. It doesn't cost us hardly anything to keep it around. It's such an excellent trainer, and you know, outside of being a trainer, it's just a lot of fun to fly around. I can pop the windows open and just kind of experience what's going on up there from the air looking down, and it's definitely an airplane I plan to keep forever. I'll probably teach my kids how to fly in it. I keep my work flying separate from my pleasure flying. I can go fly the corporate jet 5 days a week, you know, do whatever I need to do there, and then kind of compartmentalize that, come out here on the weekends, and it's just a total different experience. This is a hobby, it's fun, it's what I like to do. So I got a YouTube channel, it's Colton's Co-Pilot on YouTube, and then on Instagram I'm Colton the Commercial Pilot.
All right, well, you ready to go fly?
Let's do it.
How long have you been flying out of majors?
I would say since day one, but actually since day two. I took an introductory Young Eagles flight
Cessna 84
just
Mike.
before my
Readback is
15th
correct.
birthday.
And just about
And then,
correction, archery for Mike.
For my actual 15th birthday, all I wanted were flying lessons. So on my 15th birthday, I came out here and took my first
Hold short awaiting IFR release.
official lesson. I haven't added it up, but I've got about 600 hours in this airplane, and I'd reckon that probably at least 75% of the legs involved a leg either taking off or landing here.
Well, then you know it pretty well, huh?
Archery for
I think so.
Runway 35 at Kilo, clear for takeoff.
If I had $1 for every time I've said majors traffic. But give the tower a call here. At Majors Ground, Cessna 6187 Golf, ready to copy IFR to Paris.
Cessna 6187 Golf ground, clearance on request.
Copy, we're at the south ramp, ready to taxi with the numbers.
Cessna 87 Golf, taxi to runway 35 at Kilo.
35 at Kilo, 6187 Golf. We'll get rolling
546,
while he
runway 35, clear for the option.
makes a phone call, get our clearance.
So tell us a little bit about what we're going to do today. So you're filing IFR, so what exactly is your plan?
Well, the ceiling keeps rising, but it's still only at about 2,000 feet right now, so I just filed a round-robin flight plan. We'll take off, climb up above the clouds, probably either cancel the IFR or see if they'll just put it on hold, and then we can fly around on top for a little bit, and then when we've had our fun, we'll shoot an approach back into here.
Sounds good.
In an airplane like this with no
Center.
IFR GPS or anything like that, I mean, it's old
Cessna 87
school.
Golf, clearance available.
Stand by, we'll be ready here in just a second. I try not to do too many things at the same time, so we're almost to the run-up area anyway, so I'll just copy it when we get there. I flew over here yesterday, and it was kind of same thing it was this morning, overcast at 800, and like I said, with no IFR GPS or anything, I'm pretty much limited to VOR and ILS approaches.
Old school.
Old school, and when it's the wind was favoring a north flow, and the only ILS here is to the south runway, so it was a little bit of a juggling act to get in, but an 87 Golf is ready to copy.
Cessna 87 Golf is clear to the Paris airport via as filed. On departure, climb and maintain 5,000. Departure frequency 132.02, and they'll issue me your IFR squawk when we get your release.
Okay, copy. We're cleared to Paris as filed. Will maintain 5,000. Departure 3202. Standing by for the squawk. 6187 Golf.
Cessna 87 Golf, readback correct. Advise when ready for taxi. I'm correction, ready for departure.
We'll go. Alrighty. Do a run up here. Bags are happy. Carb heat's happy. All the engine gauges are in the green. Wheels on, flight controls.
Okay.
One of the many fun things about flying a 150. Alright, the run-up and before takeoff checklists are complete. The only other thing I'm going to do is put our first nav aid, which is the Paris VOR, on 3.6. We'll swap that into nav 1. And my DME receiver is actually separate from the nav radio, so I got to tune it into the DME as well. We'll swap over to tower, put departure in the standby. We can rock and roll.
Runway looks clear.
That over here too.
Final looks clear. I hate being the guy that calls up the tower when there's an airplane on a quarter-mile final.
Yep.
Ask for a takeoff. Well, what do you think the answer is going to be? The tower Cessna 87 Golf is ready for departure.
Cessna 87 Golf, roger. Hold short, waiting squawk and release from center.
Hold it short of 35, 6187 Golf.
How long does that release usually take?
Depends on the day. Out of here, it's usually not too terribly bad. We're far enough east of the Metroplex that we're not kind of burdened by them.
So what would you say your rotate speed is when you're climbing out?
It's about 65. On a warm day like today, obviously the density altitude is a little higher. Takes a little bit more runway. Everything pretty much happens at 70. The published VX is 64, published VY is 70. Can you really tell the difference between the two?
Slight change on your climb out initially. Now it's up to 3,000. Your squawk is 5143. Runway 35 at kilo, clear for takeoff.
Okay, squawk in 5143. Initial altitude is 3,000. Runway 35 clear for takeoff. 6187 Golf. I call this my poor man's altitude alerter.
6 departing Cessna.
Put your
runway 35
assigned altitude in a VOR that you're not using, just as a little memory aid.
Ooh, like that.
35.
Alrighty, one last chance to match the gyro to the compass. And we're lined up. Let's roll. Gauge is in the green. We're making full power. All 100 horses are roaring and ready to go. Airspeed's alive. I just kind of hold a little bit of slight back pressure on the yoke. And once she's ready to fly, she'll lift off. There we go. Just kind of transition into about a 70-mile-an-hour climb.
Yeah, 500 feet a minute. That ain't bad.
Well, all of it. We might be able to get to pattern altitude. We got an 8,000-foot runway here. It's big enough for a 747. Some people get lazy when they learn to fly on a runway like that, but I had an old-school instructor, and anything other than on the numbers was unacceptable.
Yeah, that's the way I fly too. It's interesting nowadays, you know, I don't know how you learned how to fly your patterns, but I keep noticing at the airports I fly at, you know, especially training airports where there's like a lot of flight training traffic, these 737 patterns are super big.
They get bigger and bigger.
It's like my concern with that, at least from my perspective, would be like, if you lose an engine and you're, you know, super far out from the runway, you wouldn't be able to make it back.
Absolutely. Over center, 6187 Golf. We'll see you in a little bit. Roger. Over center, Cessna 6187 Golf is 1,200, climbing 3,000 off of majors. Not quite picking up the Paris VOR if we could have a vector that direction.
Number 6187 Golf, 4 center radar contact, leaving at 2,200. Fly heading of, let's make it a 050, I'm going to maintain 5,000.
050 heading up to 5,000, 6187 Golf.
What altitude do you start to lean back once you get to cruise? Where do you typically do that?
When it's hot in the summer, pretty much once I get out of pattern altitude, I'm desperate for every horsepower that I can get. I'll start to pull it back, just kind of a rough lean. I think Cessna recommends you don't do it till above 3,000, but our density altitude on the surface is pretty close to 3,000.
What's the story behind your hula girl?
So that's Lola. I figured out pretty early in my flight training career that I was at least going to get my start flying freight. And, you know, every old movie that you've ever seen of a Beech 18 hauling the mail, I got a hula girl up on the dash. And nothing bad ever seemed to happen to them, so I figured I'd go to Hobby Lobby and pick one up.
There you go.
Her name's Lola. She's flown several hundred hours with me, and she's kept me safe so far. So I owe a lot to her. All right, let's see if we can get a good signal on old PRX. There we go. At center, Cessna 87 Golf. We're receiving the VOR now. Would you like us direct?
Cessna 87 Golf, affirmative, clear to Paris VOR.
Clear direct to Paris VOR, 6187 Golf.
What would be the route that you'd recommend somebody who's coming up, has about 1,000, 1,500 hours?
71 Bravo Whiskey.
You can't go wrong hauling freight. You learn so much aeronautical decision making, and you encounter so many different, scenarios that you just don't ever come across in an airline cockpit. I mean, like we kind of talked about how this airplane is kind of bare bones IFR. Most airplanes in the system now have a GPS, but I flew Metroliners with almost the same radios as this through busy Southern California airspace.
13.5 for 17,000.
It's nice being able to go direct to a fix, but it's not necessary. I flew the Beech 99 across the Cascades for 6 months during the winter. Way up in the icing conditions. I've seen 4 inches of ice on the wing of an airplane, and I learned to fly in Texas. I'd never seen anything like that before. So just learning how to kind of operate in that environment, you just get exposed to so much that, if you went straight to the right seat of a regional jet, you just wouldn't get to see that side of aviation.
So this is cool. We're in a 150 and we're flying into the clouds.
Yeah, you don't even have a GPS.
Yeah, this is awesome.
It can be done, If you really want to go get your instrument rating nowadays, the system is... And when I say the system, I mean the National Airspace System, right? It's largely built around RNAV. I mean, there's RNAV approaches into almost every single airport that you go to nowadays. And, back in the day, you had to go to a pretty decent-sized airport to stand a chance of having an ILS approach, but now you can get precision approach accuracy into, more remote airports, and that's great. It's good to know how to operate without it, but I tell people if they're going to get their instrument rating, they really should have a GPS so they can learn how the system that they're going to be operating in, they take full advantage of it. I've seen 4 inches of ice on the wing of my Beech 99. You have to learn how to deal with it and how to respect it, but...
Number 6187 Golf, contact force 124.87, good day.
2487, 6187 Golf. You learn the capabilities of your airplane and the capabilities of yourself as a pilot, and you just deal with it.
You ever gotten spatial disorientation when you first started?
When I first started instrument training, sure, I think everybody does.
Yeah.
But a couple hundred hours of single pilot IFR without an autopilot will cure you of that. Forward Center Cessna 6187 Golf, 4,000 climbing, 5,000.
6187 Golf, Forward Center, Paris altimeter is 2986.
2986, 6187 Golf. Pretty much the same.
6187 Golf, let me know when you have the weather. Notice approach request into Paris.
We'll go, we're actually probably just going to cancel IFR here in a minute as soon as we get back into the clear and return to majors. We're trying to do a little round robin.
Okay, no problem, let me know.
What is the big difference between 150 and 152s?
Not a whole heck of a lot. The 152 has a Lycoming engine.
Okay.
I think it makes an extra 10 horsepower or something like that, but it's not really significant.
4439.
The 150 has 40 degrees of flaps. The 152 only has 30. This is a 150K model. There were 875K models built out of the 23,800 and something total 150s built. The K this year, 1969, 1970 were the first years that the Aerobat was an option. And the Aerobat, they beefed up the airframe a little bit. It was capable of a couple extra Gs, but kind of the main reason people like them, and they've got skylights up here, and you can jettison the doors, and they come with different seats so you can wear your parachutes and all that. You're not going to go fly it around like an extra, but it's a good fundamental aerobatic trainer. All right.
Now that we're coming back in towards the airport here, tell me a little bit about what we're going to be doing.
Well, what do you want to do?
Whatever you want. ILS, we don't have an RNAV, we don't have a GPS, right?
Yeah, if we were to do an approach, it would add a bunch of time, so we'll probably just enter the pattern VFR and do a couple landings if that's cool.
Yep, that works.
Majors Tower, Cessna 6187 Golf for about 7 miles to the northeast, inbound, full stop with the numbers.
Cessna 6187 Golf, Majors Tower, report entering a right downwind for runway 35.
Report a right downwind for runway 35, and I apologize, I told you full stop earlier, we'd request the option.
Roger.
Does really well on grass. I own wheel pants for it, and they were optional on the 150s, but you know, it's not a fast airplane. You might gain half a knot by installing them, and you're going to lose like 50 pounds of useful load. So,
Yeah.
risk versus reward, or you know, cost benefit analysis there, but I don't think they look cool enough to justify. This is a really good airport to be based out of. You know, I kind of mentioned we're far enough away from the busy Class Bravo over DFW that, you know, it doesn't take forever to get your IFR releases and all that. A lot of flight schools still come out here because, you know, it's a really big runway and there's usually not a whole lot going on. So you can come out here and get 5 laps in the pattern in the time that it would take you to get, you know, 2 or 3 at McKinney when you're extending your downwind to Oklahoma every time. The controllers are real laid back. They'll pretty much let you do whatever you want to as long as you know how to ask.
Yeah, that's the key thing, knowing how to ask, knowing what to say.
Oh yeah.
So if you chop the power right here, could you make the runway?
Let's find out. Get some carb heat out, just in case. I was hoping I'd get to do this today.
That flaps 40?
Yep. Big old barn doors.
She just comes on down, look at that.
Oh man, I'm gonna be long though. This is embarrassing.
Oh, that's okay, I sprung it on you. Oh, pretty landing too, look at that.
Thank you. 87 Golf, you want the 180?
87 Golf. Negative, I've got traffic taxiing out to Kilo, just to continue down to Foxtrot. Left at Fox and to park with me.
All right, continue Fox to park with you, 87 Golf, we appreciate it.
You bet.
I think people forget how much fun a 150 can be.
Oh yeah.
That was fun.
I call it the Fun Wifty.
I like that.
I wish I could claim I invented it, but I heard it. It just resonated how true it is.
Well, thank you so much for flying with me.
You're very
Appreciate
welcome.
The ride.
It's a pleasure.
Remind me your Instagram.
It's Colton the Commercial Pilot on
Colton the
Instagram,
Commercial Pilot.
and my YouTube channel is Colton's Co-Pilot.
Sweet. All right, I'll put that link in description. I'll put a little tab here showing that as well. In the meantime, y'all check out our Patreon. We appreciate all of our patrons. I'll have this video up in a couple days. Y'all can check it out. And then, yeah, I think that about does it. Thanks again. Oh, yeah, like and subscribe. That's the other part. I'm learning as we go.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, well, we'll see you next time when you got that 310.
Absolutely.
All right.